Welcome to this week's Spinfoil Theory. We're about to take a dive into the lore of Destiny the game. Specifically, we'll be giving a high-level scrutiny to popular, emerging, and outlying theories, then judging them. With that out of the way, let's put on our Spinfoil hats and get a little crazy. Here comes this week's show. And we're recording.
Yep.
We're here. We're live. Well, not live. It's a
But
recording. Oh, man. Welcome to the Spinfoil Theory podcast, everyone. This is your host, Taylor-B, along with LadyLucida. How are you doing this week, Lucy?
I'm doing pretty good. Just vibing.
Dig it.
Waiting for my collector's edition to hopefully get here. They said it was going to get here before the 22nd, but I have received literally nothing since February 2nd, where they're like, it's in the warehouse. Don't worry, it'll ship soon. And I'm like, Witch Queen comes out in like almost less than a week. So an update would be nice, please.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah. Pretty much I'm just kind of staring out the window, waiting for the package.
Longingly.
Pretty much.
It's always raining. Oh, man. Yeah, mine just got here, like yesterday. Yeah,
Okay.
like just got here. After getting the notification earlier this week, so I've been having fun playing with the this. Do you think it's a psychometer or psychometer?
I think it's
Which,
the psychometer. I don't know. I'm bad at English.
It probably is psychometer, but I really like just being able to be like, no, use your psychometer. Put it on the psychometer. Just
I'm pretty sure it's
So I
psychometer
think-
or whatever. But yeah.
yeah, but both. I'm gonna allow both in. I'm gonna allow both. Psychometer's going crazy, but I like that.
Do you have the penguin?
I do.
Put the penguin on the psychometer thing.
Whoa, the penguin does stuff?
Maybe.
Okay, that'll be. Yeah,
'Cause if you
okay, with or without his hat.
I'm not sure. But basically there's a page in the Witch Queen Collector's dossier, which we'll talk about in a little bit, more in depth. But there is a page there that has a bunch of pictures of all of the things that can interact with the psychometer.
Oh, I see it.
And the strange coin is on there. The only thing
it is on there.
we can't figure out is the moth. You see how there's a picture of the moth on there?
Oh yeah.
That's the one thing we can't figure out what it is.
Wait, so you got the strange coin.
Yep.
You got the so everyone who doesn't know, we'll give a brief rundown later, but just as a disclaimer, and this will be in the title, thank goodness, before you hopefully clicked play, but we'll be talking about stuff that came in the collector's edition. So while it's information that is fully publicly available, potential spoilers if maybe you're like waiting to go through yours like pure, which is fine. What I really like, it has the sort of like old school shifty picture graphics thing, but if you flip it over on the back, it turns out what this is actually like a little tablet. That's like letting you view something. So I really like that. So it's got that. It's got the ID card, which we'll get over whose ID card this is later. We'll get into that. It does have the pengy.
The penguin, yep.
Has the ghost.
It also has
Oh,
something
yeah.
from the Callus Collector's the D2 Collector's Edition with the Callus book. I have that.
Really?
Yes, one of the
I have
things
that too.
It's saying like if it has like a cross through it, like a line through it, it means it doesn't work, I think. I'm not sure. Like I said, not a lot of people have their collector's editions yet, and those that do, like some people are like, "Oh, I don't have the penguin," or "Oh, I don't have this." So Raid Secrets, we don't really know what works.
Yeah, because the
with it.
what's it called? The top left one looks like the The cryptoglyph.
Yes, it is the cryptoglyph. They basically have one thing from every collector's edition, sort of.
Oh God, what if you put in some of the D1 stuff? Like, what if you put in the Frontier Ghost Shell, and then it's Peter Dinklage
That'd be weird.
with a message for you? I don't know. If you get into the multiverse that they're establishing, the multiple timelines, maybe there's one where he is your ghost still.
You know, I could see that being a thing. But for me,
I would go to that timeline in a heartbeat.
I wouldn't. I'd stay here. I'm perfectly content with Nolan. Nolan bot. I prefer Nolan over Peter Dinklage. I know a lot of people might hate me for that, but
It's I think there's a fairness in both camps, because there's things that people didn't like about the way the character were written for both actors, and there are people who kind of like maybe didn't like the direction they were given when they performed. So like that version of the character, there's kind of like, you don't really like it as much. It's kind of like it's kind of like looking at art. Like, yeah, everyone's allowed to feel ways about it. Doesn't mean either one did poorly, in my opinion. Sort of, just so everyone makes sure I'm not shitting on No Landroid.
But you are.
That was my favorite version. I know Nolan Bot's so much easier to type, but Nolan Droid just rolls off the tongue.
Maybe.
So yeah. Anyway, I've been loving that. I love the Hyvie Ghost. Little Hyvie Ghost boy. Or girl. I don't want to gender your ghost. For anyone waiting on it. The one thing that makes me nervous is the little like tuning fork thing on the psychometer. Mm-hmm. Because it's like hollow plastic.
Yeah.
I'm just like, this is gonna shatter. These are tiny.
Maybe.
But maybe
We'll
that's
see.
something that's also like easy to replace.
Yeah.
Get like a metal version of.
Have you gotten your Hive Ghost to light up yet?
My what? To light up?
To light up, yeah, it lights up.
Yeah. So for anyone who doesn't know, the psychometer is like the base that a lot of this stuff can go on top of. That's kind of what we're talking about. We can go into. And just one last thing before we actually do the intro, I promise. And so it you can tune it and make the different things like light up and play a recording. And so the book itself also has one, Lucy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I tried that already. Okay, so I guess let me just get the intro out of the way. Let's get that out of the way so we can keep going off, because I think we're both pretty excited for it. So, guys, this week we're doing an intro to the Hidden Dossier, and light intro, and talk about the collector's edition, how they interact with the dossier. So, the Hidden Dossier is a lore book that is put together with the collector's edition for Witch Queen. That is like, some people have been getting them as early as like, I think a couple weeks ago. And I just got mine this past week. And, so it's out there in the wild. It's been scanned. It's been transcribed. And we'll have some information for you to go check it out yourself if you weren't able to get your own. And it's pretty good. It's such a good read. Lizzie, what do you think? Like, I was like smiling the whole time.
I thought it was really interesting. It definitely cleared up a lot of community misconceptions or stuff that the community was confused about. So I'm really excited about it. I think it's very good. I always like all of the stuff that comes with each of the collector's edition, such as like previously with Shadowkeep, we had the K1 journal, which explained to us about the phantom nightmares and the darkness and what is inside the anomaly in the anomaly crucible map. And then the Clovis Bray journal explained how Clovis found Alcahest and spoke with the darkness, and now we have the Hidden Dossier, which I think is a wonderful addition to the collector's edition lore books. I thought it was good, basically.
Yeah, if I had to put a personal hot take on my reaction to the Hidden Dossier, is that it's probably up there with Kate's journal for me.
Really?
Yeah. Because it does a couple things. It sheds light on a lot of important stuff, a lot of like world building stuff, but it also like sheds light on smaller interactions. It kind of immerses you more from, in this case, Ikora's perspective, in Kate's journal, obviously Kate's perspective. It immerses you in the world as they see it a little more than I think you can really get through our interactions in the game. Like it's a much more like intimate time with the character.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And what's really cool about this is like, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Lucy, but I feel like with Cade's journal, that was either written for like maybe Cade 7 or whoever would find it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas this was written for us, the Guardian.
Yes, definitely.
So it's if you when you guys read it, if you feel like Ikora's talking to you, it's because she is. Or at least your character, your Guardian. So yeah. That's my hot take there. But yeah. So with this, we get a rundown of a lot. Oh gosh, where should we start, Lucy? Like I don't even know. Begin at the beginning.
Yeah, I think we can just go through it. I think it's it's basically divided into sections, and there's all of this is basically Ikora's. I wouldn't say notes, but it's called the Hidden Dossier because it's basically Ikora and her hidden, which if you don't know, Ikora's hidden is basically a bunch of assassins / spies that basically go around and they collect stuff and they help Ikora and the warlocks understand stuff. So they're pretty cool. I think if Destiny was real, I'd probably be like a hidden or maybe a warlock or something. But basically, I can start and talk about the first part here, because the first part is about unpaired ghosts. And it basically goes through and it talks about how some ghosts are kind of like being all philosophical and talking about what does it mean to like find our guardian, and some of the ghosts were kind of arguing of how they should interact with their chosen guardian. So, for example, like our ghost, he even says when he first res us, I've been looking for you for a long time. Some people, like Glint, or Pulled Pork before he got his name, they had to spend a long time looking for their ghost. But, basically, this first part is written by Ikora's ghost. And they are talking to Ikora how they've noticed some of the ghosts, unpaired ghosts, so they haven't found their guardians yet, how they're kind of I wouldn't say suspicious, but they're acting strange. Quote, I noticed one common thread among these unpaired ghosts. They really like the Books of Sorrow. Ever since Eris deciphered the calcified fragments, Guardians have been fascinated by the history of the Hive. I feel like they're talking about me here. But anyways, but these ghosts, I don't think it's fascination. I think it's pity. They see the Hive as an exploited underclass, for goodness sake. Victims of a cosmic parasite that tricked the poor Krill into eternal slavery. No wonder they haven't found their guardians. They didn't want to help anyone kill the Hive. But this is troubling, isn't it? Because if ghosts can decide that they have moral qualms with raising guardians, and if they can convince other ghosts to follow suit, we're going to need a program of counter-persuasion. We'll have to start keeping an eye on the morale and loyalty of our own ghosts. This way lies a terrible future.
Yeah, it's so interesting and reminds me so much of like the real world fan base reaction to the
Oh
Books of
yeah,
Sorrow.
definitely.
Yeah.
That's why I kind of did a little tongue in cheek there. Where, Guardians have been fascinated by the history of the Hive. I wonder if they're talking about Lucy
Weird.
here.
Weird how that happens. Um and yeah, it's a it's I feel like especially it's these ghosts that are unpaired and haven't sort of found their guardian
Yeah,
that it kind of fits that they would maybe connect with a story of like loss, like you find in the sort of origins of the hive.
yeah.
It's one of my favorites. But I do like I do like it also hits home that they're sitting around like theorizing and
Yeah.
philosophizing about it.
Philosophizing, yes, because basically they're like, should the ghost do whatever their guardian wants? Should the ghost kind of be like equals? Or should like the ghost be like I wouldn't say like above, but like there's this weird like, because as we've seen like guardians and ghosts, there's not like it's like this kind of relationship. Like sometimes they're equals. Like I feel like with us, the player, and our ghost, we're kind of equals. Like the ghost will do whatever we say because the ghost is, our ghost. But I feel like, or like Ikora with her ghost, they're definitely seen as equals. Or Sagira but then are some people like Catabasis and his ghost, how
Gilgamesh.
Gilgamesh, yes, how they kind of are or were little touch and go. Like it's really interesting, I guess.
Well, I mean, I think sort of to your initial point, the way I always read and heard the recording of what I would say they're falling out, Catabasis and Gilgamesh on the ship there, I took it as sort of like this betrayal,
Ooh,
this
yeah.
like descent into madness, but also this like just real deep sense of betrayal. Like when he said like you, like I think, was it everything you say, or is it like
Yeah.
you lie? Like it's
It hurts, yeah.
yeah.
You could also say another sense of betrayal is with Wilhelm Seven and his ghost, as Wilhelm kind of went cuckoo.
Oh,
The ghost
yeah.
kind of went crazy, or his ghost didn't get crazy. He went crazy. His ghost was like, "Oh, I'm going to help you out," and Wilhelm Seven was convinced that his ghost was like evil or something and killed it.
Couldn't trust it.
Couldn't trust it. He's like, "No, you're going to steal my loot." But I would have been like, "Nah,
Yeah.
man, it's a ghost. I don't think it can use a gun. I think you're fine." But he was just kind of suffering from delusions and going crazy.
I remember when he killed that earlier in the story when he kills his buddy's ghost too,
Yeah.
just to keep him in line.
Yeah, he's
Like oofed.
definitely oofed, indeed. But yeah.
Yeah.
So that part was really interesting. Because they also kind of talked about like how what is the exact nature of their connection to their guardian? Like, is it just like they're trying to find one particular person, like how our ghost found us, and so forth, or is it more of like they have like a criteria, and if a person fits that criteria, they're good to go? Or, and they also, one of the interesting things is like, does the choice of a partner lie within the ghost, or is it a mission assigned by the traveler? Lots of interesting questions, I think.
Yeah, it's really
They weren't kidding when
It's
they were
kind of-
just like philosophical.
yeah. Well, and what's kind of interesting about this is if you consider like ghosts. Now, granted, they're brought up. They were created with in-game universe, like super advanced or like modern intelligences, or however they're created,
Somewhat
they're pulled from them,
sentient,
or like
yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
Like they can feel things, and they.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say they're definitely sentient.
They hurt.
They hurt.
For sure.
They cry.
But they've only existed, at least as far as we know, for like maybe like a few hundred years.
Yeah, a couple hundred at most.
Because
they
300,
existed
something like
before
that.
the collapse, or they existed after, like literally the end of the collapse is when they came about, and they lived all through the Dark Age and all of the City Age.
Mm-hmm. So, how fast they've gone from like, okay, you exist now, to questioning your existence.
Yeah, definitely.
Is really just, it's wild. And guys, like, just, it's impressive if you consider, like, the only other thing that we know in real life that's done it is mankind, and I'm pretty sure that took us thousands of years to get to a point of like a sense of self and society to be like, yeah, but why? It is just really interesting that they're what really seemed like, especially what's interesting to note this is especially if the Traveler chose humanity for a task.
Yeah, definitely.
That the ghosts don't have a defined task. They just kind of exist in symbiosis with what they create, the Guardian. It just, oh man. And there are some people who's like, no, the Traveler wants you to choose. Like, okay, but like, why only we choose?
Yeah. Like, it definitely brings up a lot of, like, I guess, moral qualms, I guess, because it's like, is it the ghost that's choosing? Is it the Guardian? I mean, is it the Traveler? Do the ghosts even have a free will? But yeah.
Yeah.
It's
It just, the more you try to simply answer it, the more questions it just raises, and then you have to be like, okay, well now we just need to actually know. And especially now that the Traveler will speak for itself, like, hey Traveler, like, what happened when the ghost got made?
Yes.
Why here? Why nowhere else?
Yes. What's interesting is the next section is basically talking. It's each of the different creeds of the hidden. So the creeds are find thyself, know thyself, destroy thyself. Okay. And basically it's like Cora writing some notes about kind of about her past, about like where she's come from. Like, as we know, she used to be very lethal in the Crucible. Extremely lethal.
A bit of a hothead.
She was. She was kind of, I wouldn't say crazy, but she was very...
Prideful?
Prideful, yes. And then she talks about the great Ahamkara hunt, which is interesting. We get I think it's a new Ahamkara. I've never seen this guy's name before, but I will check Ishtar, and if I am wrong, then you could cut this part.
You talking about Melfer?
Yeah,
or Mudhere?
Mudhere, yeah. No, that's a new one. We've never heard of him before. But we do get to see my boy Azarim. May he rest in pepperonis, because he's dead. I didn't think he'd be dead, my boy. My favorite Ahamkara is dead. So that kind of takes the theory that I had with the Grasp of Avarice. I mean, it could be an Ahamkara after death. I mean, as we've seen, that hasn't really stopped, like, Riven or the two Ahamkara you can see in the Dreaming City, where you go give them Baryon bows for unstable charges of light, or the tinctures of Queensfoil. I forget their names, but I know where they live. Those guys. But yeah, but no, it was really
You will come to their homes.
I will come to their house and be like, here, I have Baryon bows. I have 15,000 of them. Please help.
Please exchange.
Yes. But what's interesting is they now confirm, I guess in this little lore book, they confirmed that the Ahamkara hunt happened before the Great Disaster, which I think is interesting. I mean, like the timeline in the City Age is really murky because some sources say the Iron Lords were there at the Battle of Twilight Gap, but they also had to all be dead because of what happened in Rise of Iron. They all went to try and go get Siva. So like there are some things that we're not really sure where they fall. I know people weren't sure if the Great Disaster was before or after Twilight Gap. But at least now we know the Ahamkara hunt is before the Great Disaster. Because basically their strategy against the Ahamkara was basically to overwhelm the Ahamkaras with so much paracausal energy, Guardians using their supers and whatnot, that and it would be hard to use for the Ahamkara to use paracausal trickery. Note, Ahamkara are paracausal now. They actually confirmed that, which is, I mean, like, we knew they were paracausal, but it's at least nice to get, or at least assumed they were, but at least it's nice to know that they are. But now the real question is, how do they get their paracausality? Is it through the darkness? Is it through the light? Because we've seen wherever the Traveler goes, the Ahamkara kind of follow it. As we've seen in the Books of Sorrow. And now here, the Ahamkara are here. So, I'm not sure about that. But I think it's interesting.
Yeah. It does a lot of things for the timeline that... Well, it does raise like some more questions, but it does kind of help like iron out some questions that you had too.
That was like my biggest thing that I liked about the Hidden Dossier is that it took a lot of like, I wouldn't say like misconceptions, but a lot of things that people were like, oh, like one thing that I'll talk about later is like, oh, canonically there are millions of Guardians because that's how many players there are. Funny enough. So people are like, oh, well, if we have millions of Guardians, why don't we just retake the solar system?
You heard those cats.
Yes. Well, I guess I'll just talk about it now. But basically, the reason why is because most Guardians are new lights. People who just, I'm going to load up the game, maybe not even get my first subclass, and it's whatever. I don't care. Like, that's in lore now, that most Guardians haven't even mastered their first subclass.
Oof.
Like, most of
Poor
them
guys.
are new lights, or little babies, or stuff like that. Or they're more, I guess it's that they would rather defend the city rather than go out and be conquerors and that sort of a thing. Which, I respect that. That's a noble thing to do. So, and then later on, they also talk about how insanely strong Ikora is. Like, she's crazy. She's, like, really crazy.
I mean, you saw her do back-to-back supers back in the Red War.
Yes, definitely.
I really agree, though. It's very, very cool to have a lot of sort of jokes and reflections on the real-life community. Have like a canon explanation.
I love that. I love that when Bungie... Because Bungie, they see the memes we make. They see the theories we make on Reddit and Twitter and that kind of thing. Like, they see all the stuff that we do. So I always think that's funny when they put like a little nod to like what we do. Like the empty vessel lore tab is Osiris telling Saladin that, I don't know if you know, but some Guardians are thinking it was you that was behind the assassination. And Saladin just gets the war flashbacks. And he's like, what? What? No. He's like, I would never do that. Zavala's my friend, man. And it's just like, it hurts. It makes me sad. Like, but the community is also, I just think it's great. I love those kind of things. Like, seeing those kind of things in the lore, it just makes me really happy because, I don't know, just like, it feels like the world, I know it really truly, like, Destiny is a, like, evolving world, but it's one thing to have, like, the players, like, get some fun things, like, in the actual, like, canon lore of the game, which I think is pretty great.
It's a nice, especially in the way Destiny is presented, and just sort of being kind of light on the MMO sort of side of things in comparison to other MMOs, guys.
Yeah,
so, like,
in comparison to like other MMOs, but yeah.
It's really nice that the community gets reflected in the world. Like when the Cabal would talk about how they were just confused about why we like would kill something and then dance.
They're like, what are they doing? Why are they dancing? But yeah.
This one's not even fighting, it's just doing sparrow tricks.
But yes. But what I think is really funny is, so the next section is about Stasis. There is some other sections here where, there's some messages between Zavala and Ikora, and they're just kind of, I won't say joking around, but kind of, you're seeing like a different side of Zavala and Ikora. That's because, like, they're close friends, but they both definitely put on like a mask, or like when they're talking to other Guardians, they're much more, stoic and more like a teacher. But then when they're with each other, they're friends. They're friends.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was really sweet, seeing their like little messages where I think they're playing like chess or something.
Yeah.
And
or it's like a
Zavala
chess-like game.
Or a chess-like game, and Zavala's like, "You're going easy on me," and the girl's like, "No, I'm not. I don't know what you're talking." Like, it's just like fun, like friendly banter, and I'm like, that's great. But then after that is something really interesting where they talk about Stasis and how it's changed. So that means, all the lovely nerfs that Bungie has done to Stasis, that's canon. That's Stasis adapting, so more people will use Stasis because, like, if it's too broken, then people are gonna, I won't say complain, but like,
they'll be off-put by it.
Yes.
Like, I liked especially when they compared it to a virus.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, a virus, it's not supposed to kill people, it's supposed to infect as many people as possible. So, like, it's like, oh god, the darkness, it's bad. And then people are using it, like, oh, it's not that bad. It's actually pretty cool. But bump. Sorry, I had to make that pun.
No pun intended.
Yes. But I just thought this quote was funny. Why would Stasis weaken its effects against other Guardians? I'll tell you exactly why. Same reason a virus evolves a strain that won't kill its host. People were turning against Stasis, didn't like what it was doing to their crucible. So Stasis made itself nicer. So we'd keep on using it. If Stasis was better than what the Traveler gave us, we wouldn't be able to accept it as just another colorful species of whoop-ass. We might get scared of it. But this way it's nice and balanced. Everything kept in proper balance. And doesn't balance sound like a goal worth striving for? I just think that's interesting.
I really like that too, because it also gives this sort of how can I say this?
It gives like a sort of sentience almost to Stasis. Like, it has not necessarily a mind of its own.
Or to how we get it, right?
Yeah.
When we broke the crux, and I wonder if the crux makes it doesn't even, anyway. When we break the crux of darkness, and we no longer need it, and it's what's really funny is is Elsie the stranger kind of does this like, yeah, you had it in you all along, wink.
Like, pretty much, yeah.
if using the power can change, who's in charge of that? Because the light seems to be just, like, you got the Traveler's Light, which is, more powerful. But it seems to be like, at least canonically, there's been no, like, you, the Guardian, have grown more powerful because you're like a battery for this power level, this light level.
Yeah.
Power level now that we use, multiple sources. So, like, I think at that rate, if you go like to like ratings throughout the whole time, like the light is at like a solid, air quotes, measurable increment.
Yeah, definitely. But
like who?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I think this is one of Ikora's hidden is this stasis behaviors dossier part. But when they talk about these signs of cruelty among stasis users, they make an interesting, I guess, analogy. So, what they say is, can we tell if stasis makes people cruel or reckless, or in the best case, very bold? I see stasis users who shouldn't have any kind of power, never mind stasis. And I see decent guardians who took to stasis as an urgent necessity. It's the old question about Thorn. Was Dredgen Yor corrupted by his weapon, or did he just need an excuse? Maybe stasis really is just a tool. Maybe the only moral valence is what we bring to it.
Ooh.
So, like, that's definitely a really good point, though, because as we've seen, some people with stasis, they kind of go, I wouldn't say they go off the deep end, but they kind of lose it. But we've also seen with Shayura, she's like the opposite. She's seeing stasis, and she's like, oh, if I see you using stasis, you're dead to me. I'm going to beat you up. I'm going to...
Yeah, she has big,
bully everyone.
What's the phrase? Yeah, it's like, bitch gotta go, like energy.
Yeah, she's
like,
definitely...
like Lisbon had that too.
Yeah, definitely. So, like, I just think it's really interesting that they kind of talk about that sort of thing.
I really do too. It's like you. This is kind of what I was trying to like touch upon earlier. It's like little things that flesh stuff out and make it more real. It helps your immersion into the world, even if this answers some questions, but it does like give you more questions, obviously, but in like that good way, because in that way that like doesn't take you out of the story.
Yeah. But yeah, I just think it's great because they even then the next thing is I think it's Truce's ghost, Cowlick. Yes, that's their ghost's name. They analyze stasis, and they actually go like really in depth into the literal science behind stasis. And our boy Lettuce, who was a guest on our show a little bit ago, I would say last year, he was our guest in 2021, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like January.
That is correct.
Ish, I think. I don't know.
We should have him back.
We should have him back to re-talk about with all of the new stuff.
Yeah.
That'd be Pog. But anyways, it literally, and he was right. They literally explain it, and it's great, and I love it. It's very good. But let's see, the next section is a bunch of different letters to Ikora on the VanNet, which is basically like their version of the internet, which I think is really funny. And a lot of people are just like sending her random like conspiracy theories. They're like, did it ever occur to you that Aramis is a common language anagram for Am Eris? Does that mean Aramis is Eris? Confirmed? Like a lot of them are just like crackpot theories like that. And I can literally picture Ikora reading this. She just stares at her ghost, and she's like,
I swear that's not my guardian.
"Are you sure?"
On the,
No, I'm kidding,
on the
I'm
van
kidding.
net. Oh yeah, no, I wouldn't. I totally wouldn't do that. It's funny you say internet because and I think you know this, Lucy. Just also being in IT, but for anyone listening who doesn't know, so the internet was originally kind of built off it's the same thing, but it was the defense network ARPANET. And so like VanNet, like in my mind, goes straight to that, or maybe like if there's any cyberpunk fans out there, in the like Cyberpunk Red, which is like 2045, or the video game, which is 2077. There's not like a World Wide Web anymore, so the like network infrastructure is usually like city based. That's about as big as it gets.
Oh wow.
I mean that could be huge, but yeah, there's no more like worldwide web for lore reasons. We should do a cyberpunk episode. That'll be fun.
That would be interesting, yeah.
I would totally do it. So like the VanNet just gives me big sort of like vibes like that, which is really interesting. I wonder if the Awoken have their own
Like, maybe.
version.
But
I bet theirs is like uses crystals somehow.
probably. But what I think is really funny is one of the messages to Ikora is from the Drifter. And it's really funny. I can literally hear this in his voice. He's like, "Did you sign off on this? Zavala ordered a search of my ship to get samples of my plants. There are known similarities between your vessel's infestation and the growth aboard the derelict Glycon Votalis. Tell the big guy that if he wants to get at my garden, he better start pounding some primevals. Transmat firing. D." Like, what the hell? Like, Drifter is so chaotic.
I love it. I love that it sounds like I don't even like he was sending that message while he was doing Gambit. Like instead of
Yes.
talking to the Guardians before he sends them off, he's just like
He's
recording
like, "Hold
this
on,
message.
I gotta write a message to Ikora."
And he like sees how long he's taking. Like, transmat fire.
He's like, whatever. He's like, "You're fighting, frick, ding, 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 Taken. Wait, you can't fight Taken. JK. Hive. Bring a sword. Adios. Get out of my ship. Goodbye." Like, I think it would be funny if one of his, like, you know how the intro thing, how he does, like, the coin flip? I think it would be funny if there's a really low chance of it happening, of where he does the ding, and he like, drops the coin. He's like, it's, frick, it's, fallen. I guess. Like, I just think that would be that's so, like, in character. He's like, "Oh, look at me." I'm just like, he's doing some real complicated, like, ding or thing with the coin, and then he drops it, and he's like, shucks. I think it's Hive, I think. Like, I just think that'd be funny. But then, one of the ones is, interesting. The last message is really interesting. It's from it's quote from a low power guardian. And I think it's really interesting because this guardian was rezzed at the Jebel Sabah battle site in Egypt. That battle was a really, like, that was the first known, I think, account of, like, a massacre or, like, large warfare. So, very, very, very old. And it's even interesting is, like, the person's language is very different than ours, so... And they kind of talk about it, how they go through and they're just like, sorry if my, like, English is bad. I wasn't rezzed knowing English. I've had to have my ghost, like, we had to, like, learn English and modern skills.
Ooh, yeah. The sort of, the perspective from a guardian who was rezzed with, because, I've talked about this before. It's this sort of, this functioning, what's it called? amnesia. Let me see here.
Yeah, it's like
Actually,
this, like, you
Disassociated.
you obviously like know how to speak and walk and like that. It's like certain memory is gone, basically, which that's really interesting.
Yeah, and it's wild because it definitely makes the choice of who the ghost reses too, like really all the more interesting, because like you're sort of picking a toolkit, right? Like you're picking a loadout almost.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it's really interesting. One of the things that this Guardian says is really, really interesting. She knew from the position of her remains that they died in a massacre, and they say violence of human against human is very troubling to me. Then later on, they say many Guardians read the unveiling lore and discuss the perspective of the darkness. Many Guardians prefer the darkness to the light because basically the darkness is, talking to us and it's saying, "Oh, you're great, you're awesome," but the light, it's quiet. It doesn't say anything because the whole thing about the darkness is trying to corrupt us and use us, while the light is saying, "Hey, you're free to make whatever choices you want. You can do."
Mm-hmm.
And that's the important thing that so many people don't think. And then I like that they made a pun. I don't think they did it purposefully, but they were like, now we have Stasis, which is very cool. Guardians are bored of the light and want to massacre each other with darkness. I think this happens because the light no longer has a speaker for it. Many texts have been written to give a voice to the darkness. The light is taken for granted due to silence and lack of things to argue about. Silence is mistaken for complacency or impotence. Air is always silent and we need it to live, so we forget it until the flood or the storm.
Mm-hmm.
And what's great is it's like basically a new light guardian is basically asking Ikora, "Hey Ikora, do you have any like texts or things where like the traveler speaks so I can like try and dissuade these like evil edgelord guardians to stop being edgelords, please?"
Just bring them back. I just feel like if I could just tell them something.
Yeah, because he's like, "Would you please use your formidable knowledge to produce an exegesis of light which will command respect of jaded guardians who do not let me sit at the campfire because I am too straight-edged." Like, their English is a little bit off, but like you still understand what they're trying to say, and it's just like, I just want to find this guardian, I just want to meet them, and I just want to hug them. I want to protect them. They're a new light. Like, It's also interesting that power is, like, your power level is important. I wouldn't say, but like, it's in the lore. Like, if you're a low power guardian, you're not going to be able to do much. But for those of us like myself, and even more crazier people that are like, there are people right now, Taylor, that are 1,500 power. That scares me.
I've seen that.
That scares me. I look at those people, and I'm like, Mother of God, why? Why would you? I mean, I know they're literally just AFK farming in the thrallaway for like hours. That's all they're doing. But it's still just like, are you good?
Yeah.
But then
it always makes me wonder, especially like, what is it like for them to go into certain activities or certain like open world things? Do they just like look at stuff and it explodes?
I always think it would be funny to see like a new light's perspective of like us or like higher level guardians just coming in and wrecking house, completely decimating a public event, and then they're just like, "All right, bye," and the new light's like, "What the hell? What was you just
murdered everything?"
What? Like, I always I love patrolling the Cosmodrome specifically because of that reason, because like you see like the little new lights and they're just like, "What are you doing? How do you look so cool, man?" And they just kind of just follow you around because they're just like, "You're so cool." Because like we have like the cool armor, the cool weapons, and they're just wearing blues or greens, and they're just like, "I'm lost." But yeah,
so shiny.
Pretty much. Then the next, like I said, the next section is a message from Anor, our favorite zealotous warlock.
Mm-hmm.
And she also talks about stasis. And is like, hey, Ikora, why are we still allowing people to use stasis? Stasis is evil. We should only be using the light. Basically, and she's like, this is all the Drifter's fault. If we hadn't had the Drifter come in the tower, then he wouldn't have tempted the Guardians using Gambit. and she literally says, quote, this all began with the groveling opossum, the Drifter. We let him acclimate our Guardians to eating from metaphysical garbage bin, the filth and folly of the darkness. And I'm like, calm down.
So angry.
You're angry. I get that.
So angry.
But,
Did you think that means that canonically she lost? She lost the Guardians vote?
I think so. I think this means like she kind of lost.
There were more brothers and sisters than there were snitches.
Yeah. Probably. But no, it's really interesting how she even mentions like we said, I think all of the lore books are canon and like can be read by people in universe, so to speak, because Anor talks about the Dark Future lore book and as well the Unveiling texts, which is really interesting. But what she says about Eris is like, if you give credit to stories of alternate timelines, the Dark Future lore book, quote, then we know Eris Morn is capable of betraying and destroying humanity. Are we to do nothing to prepare? Are we to ignore her slow shift from an attitude of absolute rejection of darkness to a wary acceptance of stasis as wintercraft? What do we do if she goes further? That is something that I did notice. Like, Eris before was like, no. Like, Season of Royal, she's like, darkness bad. Darkness evil. I hate darkness. I want to destroy the darkness.
All my homies hate darkness.
All my homies hate the darkness, sort of thing. And now, I think it was through the messages through Unveiling, and then through hanging out with the Exo Strange, I think she became more accepting of stasis.
Yeah. Like, I think, and maybe this is just me, like, I think her initial reaction to the darkness was an association with the Hive.
With the Hive and Savathun, especially.
Yeah, and so, like, once, especially as she's grown, once she's able to have not only impressions, but, like, seeing it being wielded by people that are demonstrably, like, not the Hive.
Yeah. I think that
she can kind of
definitely
disassociate it with them, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It's just really interesting how, I mean, Anor, I'm going to be kind of a little controversial here, but Anor has some good points about stasis. Because, like, Zavala has forbidden the use of stasis, but Guardians use it anyways, and they're not really getting punished for it because they can't really do anything about it. And, like,
I mean, what are they going to do?
That's the thing. Like, what? We're going to take the Guardians that use stasis and put them in prison? They're Guardians. They can just punch a wall and, oh, look, I'm free. Like, unless we, like, do light suppression on their ghosts, but that's kind of morally wrong.
Well, kill the Guardian, capture the ghost?
But something like that, yeah.
That's what Anor did. That's what Anor was
doing.
I mean, yeah.
Anyway. Or kind of what the Guardians did to, or the Scions did to Zavala's ghost. How they shot the light suppression tech at his ghost, so he was basically a normal person. So then he can't use...
like depowered him.
Basically depower people if they're using states like that. So they could do that, but that's going to cause more problems than not.
Yeah, I think it's definitely, especially like as an instant sort of like a kick in the pants, if a Guardian is your foe. I think the ghost suppression is a great way because I'll put it this way, like the Guardians, the Risen, are both conduits and batteries.
Yes.
I think through our ghost, we are more actively playing the role of conduit, especially in situations like this where like your ghost gets hurt or in in the loot cave where Wilhelm kills his buddy's ghost, and he immediately is just like, oh shit, like kind of weak now, can only really do like mule stuff, and ends up getting worked to death. I think there is that, but then we also see in the dark future a ghostless Zavala just literally like, I'm not saying it's easy, but like stood on a traveler and just became like a super missile.
Well, yeah, basically he became a conduit for the traveler, and all of the light went into him. So he was like,
yeah, because he stood on top of it and was just like collect. So maybe there's like a little bit of a, just like how the darkness is in all things. Maybe there's a little bit of a
light and all. I mean, that's the speaker did say that, so it's possible, definitely.
But yeah. I also just before I go too far, I will say I just kind of want to also submit. I think once you're risen, I think you do have. It's definitely weaker without your ghost, but I think you have like this ability to now harness and wield at least the Traveler's Light.
Definitely. Yeah, no, I definitely.
To some degree. It's not very good, but yeah. Thank you.
But yeah. And then Ikora and Anor have some messages back and forth where Ikora is like kind of answers a lot of what Anor was saying. And she says, hey, Eris deserves our grace and trust. She's been through a lot. Okay? And then Anor's like, you didn't answer my question, though. Wah. And then Ikora is like, okay, well, if you can't trust me, you can't trust anyone. As far as we know, this is quote, the darkness has defeated the Traveler in every previous encounter for the entire lifespan of the universe. The only difference this time is the presence of guardians. We have been entrusted with the power to make our own choices. Maybe one of those choices is to do what the Traveler cannot, to find a balance between light and darkness. If this is the last battle, the final stand for the fate of all creation, we cannot afford to ignore possibilities. Like, damn, Ikora, you, she's great. Ikora's great.
She's playing the strategy game.
I definitely really like the Witch Queen Collector's Edition because it adds so much characterization to Ikora, and it explains why she's been kind of quiet for the past years or so. It's because she's just like, I need to be like the flawless leader. I can't show any cracks in my armor.
Yeah. And I think maybe we touched upon this earlier, but when we were talking about Medhir, guys, this is an Ahamkara that she encounters, and basically the way that she is able, it's the second one she encounters, and the way that she is able to overcome the temptation this time is by basically wishing to become someone the Ahamkara could not tempt.
Yep.
And it explains her shift in characterization. Like we kind of touched upon it earlier. She was like a hothead. You kind of see it in the comics, like the Osiris comics, that she's like a little more like haughty, like a little more like prideful, and like it wears like a lot more emotion comes through in like the things she says and the way she acts. But not anymore, and it. One of the best things, talking about fleshing out Ikora, is that this gives reason to it. It reveals that, because I have some theories actually based on a lot of like Ikora-centric ones, like based on this. But it's just so interesting that, the change it didn't just change her public perception, it changed her relationship with her ghost.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh. Lizzie, how do you feel about what we can do right now is here at just about an hour in. Do you want to do a little closeout and then just go into like a part 2 and finish out covering this stuff?
Yeah, because we're about halfway through the transcript of it right now. Because, it's 31 pages and we're on page 17 of 31.
All right, so I just marked where it is, so that's fine.
Okay. That's fine.
All right, everyone, we're going to take a break right there, and what we're going to do is we're going to split this into a 2-part episode. So this will be episode 96, and then stay tuned for the next drop, we will finish out our coverage in sort of introduction reactions. I'll come up with maybe like a clever super word. Intriactions. That's not a good, but all right. and we'll pick it up there. So I guess with that, Lucy, do you have any shout outs? Do you have any thoughts?
Any thoughts? Shout outs? I'm not sure, I guess. Like shout outs, I guess shout out to my homies because we're
nice
doing that day one Witch Queen raid. Very excited for that.
I can dig it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give a shout out to our friends over at the Guardian Downcast, Gator and Hazel. Go check them out. They actually reached out this past week for their, I guess, most recent episode, and they had a question they sent over to me, and they asked, "What exactly is the Traveler?" And I tried my best to answer. So go check out that episode. Go check out their whole podcast. It's great vibes. A lot of general Destiny coverage, and those guys are super cool. Got a pretty rockin' music list too. Check it out. And actually, just kind of want to do a more in general. The world's pretty tense right now. You, the listener, please take care of yourself. Please stay safe. And it's surviving. Just surviving is valid too.
Yes.
Yeah. So with that, everyone, stay temperate, stay hydrated, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Toodles! That's off, Guardians. That's it for this week's discussion. Have any questions or comments about this episode? You can reach out to us on Twitter @Spinfoil Theory, or write us an email at spinfoiltheory@gmail.com. If you'd like to read our show notes, check out articles, listen to past episodes, and more, be sure to pay us a visit over at our website, spinfoiltheory.com.
The Lore Network.